Alright, hi, this is Serial Pony, and today we're going to be covering XSS. We're going to go over DOM, reflective, and stored. Um, DOM XSS is client-side XSS, reflected. I mean, it comes from it's really hard, but it comes from the HTTP request, and they're almost indistinguishable, really. There's just like one difference between DOM, and DOM has like one extra step to it. Stored is where the XSS is stored somewhere on the web application, and it's um, reflected is this reflected is the simplest variety of cross-site scripting. It arises when an application receives data in an HTTP request, and it includes that data within the immediate response in an unsafe way. Would be a good way to think about reflected. They're really easy to mix up, but we're gonna do the reflected lab right here real quick. And if you want to go into more detail about what XSS is and the different types of XSS, you can go over the port swigger, and they have a lot of content about it. But let's just go over some of the impacts of XSS before we start this lab. So basically what XSS is where you're injecting JavaScript into the request. Now you can do a bunch of different things. You can do open redirects. If the site has cookies, you can steal cookies. You can also install a keylogger in the browser, and you can also use beef hooks. And then you can get a shell on the victim's browser and start doing a bunch of other cool things with it. So XSS is a pretty serious vulnerability, and on HackerOne it's rated as a high. Some companies might rate it as a medium. It depends, but that's not really the standard. It's typically a high because you can do a lot of things with it. And if somebody thinks of it as a medium, just don't try to sell it more if there aren't really cookies for you to hijack. Sell it as you're able to do keyloggers. You're also able to do take over the client's browser and then go from there to the system. Then there's some other really cool tricks you can do with XSS, and it's depending on what you can do. Nahamsec and Dakin or Cody, what they did is they found CSRF or SSRF, and what they did is they used XSS and they injected JavaScript into the PDF. So when the site generated a PDF, they injected XSS. They injected XSS into the PDF, and then it would pull in the local files into the PDF using the doc write action. So you can do quite a bit, and I really haven't explored stored enough. But I think you might be able to do like some cool things like CSRF with stored. And then, so let's just go into it real quick. They're reflected. They only got one lab here, and it's pretty easy. Before we go into it, I typically what I do is I go to the HackerOne activity about every other week, and I'll go look around for some cool XSS payloads that I like. And I'll also go through Google and try to find some cool XSS payloads I like. And I keep a big list of all the payloads I like. And this list is older than this list is newer than the one I have on my website. But after this video is up, I'm going to upload my new list. Some of my favorite payloads is using these two right here in conjunction. So sometimes the first payload might be processed differently, and then it'll read the second payload. My other favorite payload to do is an iframe, and I love this one because this one's worked for me a bunch of times. There's also blind XSS, and that's where the XSS isn't. You don't get an alert back or a prompt, and you don't really see the XSS run just because of how the application runs. So sometimes well, not all, about all the time, you should check for blind XSS using your burp collaborator or perhaps your website. And then there's polygot XSS, and that's where you do all these weird tricks to try to get XSS to run. You can also do XSS within the headers sometimes, but you need to have a cache exploit on top of that to exploit that. And then here's some DOM payloads, and we'll see that later. But DOMs, just again, it is client side, and we'll see what that is. And I have some Cloudflare payloads. I have different payloads I like from different people I follow around. But it's always good to keep updated with different payloads. So let's just jump into this lab real quick. So this lab contains a simple reflected cross-site scripting vulnerability in the search functionality. To solve this, perform a cross-site scripting attack that calls the alert function. All right. Now, you'll notice that to find the sync, you'll typically, what I do is I just put a string of A's, and then I push enter, and then I go to inspect elements, and then I look for the A's and where it's called into, and that way I can see what escapes I might need to use to get it out. And if you're doing a bug bounty, just for proof of concept, you don't always need to get the cookies and show cookies. You can use document domain for a proof of concept to show that it works. Some triagers like that because it validates that the XSS is happening within that domain and that you're not trying to cheat them. So that's pretty simple. Now we're going to go do stored. Stored's pretty easy, but I think I had a little bit of trouble doing the lab. Stored's only has one lab, so again, I'm gonna put a bunch of A's into the area where I think it might be, and then I'm going to try to find it and see what escapes I might have to use. So let's go in here and clarify what DOM is a little bit better. DOM-based XSS vulnerabilities usually arise when Java takes data from an attacker controllable source such as the URL and passes it into a sink that supports dynamic code execution such as eval or inner HTML. This enables attackers to execute malicious JavaScript, which is typically allows them to hijack other users' accounts. To deliver a DOM-based XSS attack, you need to place data into a source so that it is propagated to a sink and executes and can cause execution of arbitrary Java code. The most common source of for DOM XSS is the URL, which is typically accessed with the window location object, and an attacker can construct a link to send victims to the vulnerable page with a payload in the query string and fragment portions of the URL. Blah 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 blah. So we'll cover just a heads up. There is, when you're doing bug bounties, there is another type of XSS and it's called self XSS, and that's where you didn't find it. You didn't find DOM, like it's in the URL, it's in the page, and I like to think of it as reflected. Maybe it is DOM, but anyways, you're not able to send the XS payload to anybody, and you can only do it on yourself. And then you could social engineer your target to enter a malicious payload, but nobody's going to pay out for that, and you'll just get informative. But it's self XSS. I don't know if I'm allowed to share or give you an example of self XSS, but I know where you can find it. And I think it violates the ALUA for HackerOne for me to disclose that. I wish I could talk about it. So there's quite a few labs here, and we'll just go through them, and we'll explore the different sinks and all that, and then different parts of the XSS. So.
You've got a lot on your mind. We'll put a lot on your table. The new Zax's Family Packs, with your choice of 20 chicken fingers or 30 boneless wings plus fries and Texas toast for just $24.99. Only at Zaxby's. Order ahead or pick up in the drive-thru.
I just wanted to note, you could have found that this one if you were using the Burp Pro and you had it search. You had to do a scan. My girls are fighting. Anyway. So I just want to add in here. So when you see a path like this, the the XSS payload you use is for paths where it pulls into a location is this version. Anyways.
Capital One knows life doesn't alert you about your credit card.
Next stop, Graham Street. And Brian in the khaki shorts. Your free trial to Movie Plus ends tomorrow, so you may be charged. Want to continue or cancel? Stand clear of the closing doors.
So, meet Eno, Capital One's assistant. Eno looks out for charges that might surprise you and helps you fix them. Eno. Another way Capital One is watching out for your money when you're not. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Limitations apply.
I think that's gonna be it. We got one more. Let's just do this stored. So, especially with the post form, I just like doing a Hail Mary and copying all my payloads and putting as many payloads in there as I can get. It just saves time. And some places to check: chat forums, message boards, any place you can DM somebody, checking per URL parameters. It's a lot of checking, and XSS is usually manual. There's some tools with burp you can use, extensions, XSS validator. There's if you just Google it, there's some tools for command line to find XSS to automate it a little bit. And burp will find XSS for you. You just got to run the scan, and it takes a while, but it'll tell you. All right. Thank you for coming, and have a great day. Bye.